That's right, everybody. It's wake up. My horn's not working, man. My horn broke today. I lost my battery or something. Everything went dead. Can you guys hear me out there? If you can, give me something in the chat so that I know I'd be able to tell you're here and I'm here and we're all here. This is Wake Up West Coast. It's lunchtime. We come to you out here in Michigan along the Shiawassee River in Corunna. And we're just out here at noon having lunch almost, ready to have our lunch anyway. And we want to make sure that all those folks over on the West Coast, like some here, we've got out that way. We got John Preto in the house. We got Lindsay Badger, which isn't too far out there. But Brad Lewin. Brad, where are you at again? I don't remember where you're at. If you're seeing this out on Facebook, we're broadcasting out at GetVokl.com, and that's where I'm watching the comments over here. But if you are on Facebook and you saw it shared anywhere, which who knows, maybe I didn't share it today. What you'll find is that I had a double audio there. Sorry, guys. What you're going to find is you can leave a comment below and it'll show up. So if you're there, leave a comment. I'll see it. It'll come up on the screen automatically every so many seconds or so if you have one. And if it gets in my way, I'll just get it out of my way. So I was hoping a good friend of mine might show up today. I don't know if he's going to pop in or not. His name's Brad Slows. He's actually out by you, John. He runs a podcast called Awaken Nation. And he's been doing a lot of really crazy stuff lately with Elizabeth Hamilton. She was out here a couple of shows ago when we did the show on the bots, and they're working together as a team on this whole Awaken Nation thing. And it's kind of you string along on some of the conspiracy theory stuff, and sometimes he jumps in on one or another, or he brings it up just to talk about it. So I thought that'd be a really cool topic of discussion today for us, since there's some other stuff going on later today at 6 p.m. Eastern. The gang from Nerd World TV are coming back for like a one-off at least. We're going to see what's going to happen tonight, coming to you from Vegas. So make sure you catch that one. The feeds are out there at Nerd World TV on Facebook. I'm just going to show my screen here for a minute. I got a couple screens here, but I'm going to do this a little different. I'm going to come down here in the corner, and I'm going to hang out in the corner of this site for a little bit. Let me fix my screen. Coming at you in 1080, so I'm going to see how well that works out today. I'm not sure if we're going to fit in the screen as well as I would expect, but got my physical studio set up in the back, so rather than go green screen and just kind of freak people out with everything that I would usually try and play around with, we're going to do it this way and see what happens. So what we've got, yes, Nerd World badges out here. Love it, love it, love it. These are some of the ones that have been sticking around for so long. And obviously we had the 50th year anniversary of the lunar landing just back on July, 20th? And a lot of people were freaking out. You get all those guys coming out of the woodwork, the conspiracy theorists saying, we never landed on the moon. It was all faked, or what was it? What's that one? Scorsese made his best film yet or something like that. Whatever you want to consider to be your favorite, I'd love to know in the chat. So leave something down below to say what your favorite conspiracy theory or bunked conspiracy theory is. So we've got here a list that came from Time Magazine, by the way, if you can't see that, which the scaling over here, guys, Alex, you got to fix your scaling. Let me just move the screen over so you guys can see where I'm getting this information from, okay? I'm over on Time Magazine's Oh, I hate it when that does that. Time Magazine's website. And they had a list of conspiracy theories. During the 40th anniversary, this was actually printed. So this was 10 years ago they did this. And they have them in kind of a conspicuous order, not sure. The Secret Society one, yeah, we got to check. Let's just take a quick look. This is what the Time Magazine managed to do is they went through and did a little write-up of each of these. So you see I got the arrows here. I'm just going to follow along this way. Let's go back to the beginning of them all and see what number one was. Of course, JFK assassination. So can we really believe for a minute that JFK is not dead? For one, obviously, that's not the conspiracy theory here. What the conspiracy theory is that Lee Harvey Oswald couldn't have possibly done this execution all on his own, that there were probably a gun over the hill, there was somebody behind a tree, there was who knows. I'm not going to try to elaborate on that because I know nothing enough about the JFK assassination. Of course, I wasn't even born when he was killed, but there were literally newspapers sitting in my grandmother's living room because she used to stack newspapers all up on the couch inside her living room, and she was always working. She ran a restaurant in Deckerville, Michigan, where I was born. And what was really funny is she would get up at like 4 a.m. and she would go to work at this restaurant, feed coffee to the police and have burgers ready for noon, and she would work all into the night, and then she would just go home, crash for a few hours, and right back up and do it again. She wasn't an actual immigrant from Austria-Hungary, but her parents, her sister, and her brother all came from Austria-Hungary back in the early 1900s, and she was born here in 1905, my grandmother. So it was just kind of a really wild thing to go over to her house, which now home is home to a Dollar General. Brad, you keep posting those Dollar General posts, and you have seen my post about the lot that shows my grandmother's house and the Dollar General that's taken up the other 2/3 of the lot. That just happened to be a way that my mom got rid of the property and took care of business in the end. But we don't own that property anymore. They're still renting out the house that was my grandmother's. But I used to see a newspaper sitting on stacks, and literally I saw the lunar landing newspapers from the time, the JFK assassination newspapers from the time. They were all stacked up, so all I had to do was go read them in real time practically. Well, at least from that period. These weren't copies. They weren't anything of the sort. They were the actual newspapers that were printed during that time. So let's just keep going. I'm going to flip through a few of these so that maybe we'll spark some conversations when I'm done, and we'll talk about some of these theories that you think are definitely debunked, or maybe you've got your own opinions as to maybe, hey, I think that is crap. And I'll tell you about my favorite one anyway, as we move along. So this is it. This is my favorite cover-up because this is the 9/11. And if you guys are not familiar with one thing in particular, and I'm going to ask you all to go visit this anytime you get a chance. I always forget the website name, but it's basically Architects and Engineers, if I can even spell today. Architects. Let's remember how to do that. There we go. Architect 911. If I hit this, I'll probably find it. All right. Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. And I want to touch on this because I am a civil engineer, all right? And I have worked very clearly with structural engineers and mechanical engineers and electrical engineers and all kinds of other engineers, production engineers, video engineers. I want to implore on everyone to go check this site out. Now, these are truly professions in the field who have gone through the videos, the footage, the on-site, the rubble, whatever was left of it and where it went. We really don't know. All of this stuff. So I'm not saying let's just drop the whole idea that, a bunch of people of a certain descent crashed into the World Trade Center. I'm not denying that for any effect yet. But we do believe, in essence, if you really go and look at this stuff, there was a lot of pre-planning done here, folks. This is not something that was done because the 747 slammed into a building that was meant to be able to take that type of impact and not simply crumble from the top down when one hit. So I'm going to put that out there, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to put it out there. So I could leave a link in the chat, but go find it for yourself. Just type Architects and Engineers for 9/11. All they're seeking is the truth. They really want to, because they go totally against the reports that came out of the government's end of things when it came to what hit the Pentagon, where the plane crashed in Pennsylvania, all that stuff, and how World Trade Center 7 collapsed and fell to the ground. So go check it out. I think it's something that everyone should know or see and understand why architects and engineers are still a little baffled as to what really happened over there. All right, number 3. So we're down to Area 51 and the aliens. September, anybody going? Badges? John, are you guys gonna? John, you already had a total locust invasion over in Las Vegas, and I'm sure you guys are kind of prepping for the doomsdayers to come in. You gonna blockade them or anything? I know you wouldn't go. I'm not saying that in general. I just figure, are you guys prepared for all the nut jobs that are going to show up over at Area 51 and try to make a scene in Vegas? Who knows? It's hard to say what's going to happen over there. I've seen a lot of stuff going on with that. You're good on the aliens? Yeah, I am too, honestly. I'd love to see us use the technology if they found it. And I've been watching those unexplained mysteries. There's one on History Channel. That one's pretty cool. It's about the guys who were at the top of their game in Central Intelligence and the UFO stuff that they've got that they put together in government. Don't get us wrong. We know they're Project Blue Book. I used to love Project Blue Book when I was a kid. I was so into that and the 2 series that followed that. Now we're looking at things like literally videos of interactions with our fighter jets out on aircraft carriers on either coast of the U.S. Some amazing footage. I don't know where this footage is coming from. Are these high-tech drones? These are supposedly pill-shaped vessels that can move on a dime. I mean, no heat signature on any of this stuff. That's the freaky part. But, what do you expect? Electric units maybe gyro units, magnetic units. Who knows what the technology that these alien type inhabitants, I'm sure they're around here somewhere, maybe. A couple of grays, maybe. A couple of greens, maybe. I don't know. There's the likelihood that aliens exist among us. Is there a likelihood they're millions of miles away on another planet? Absolutely, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm all good with that. Nothing to worry about there. Don't need to debunk it for me. I saw this one, Paul is Dead. And I was like, wow, I totally forgot about this one. Do you guys know anything about this conspiracy theory that Paul McCartney never wrote? Maybe I'm amazed. Or that it just kind of believes that he secretly died back in 1966, which happens to be the year I was born. And I look at it as, wow, that's kind of strange. All this time I thought I've been watching Paul McCartney on the tubes and, until things broke up and all that other stuff fell apart. But I love the Beatles. I don't know the Beatles that well. Honestly, I don't follow the Beatles, and I don't have any Beatles music here in the house. Is that sad? Is that sad? I think it kind of is, isn't it? Is there an Android in this place? I guess. Could be. I know it's quite a ways away from Vegas, John. I heard a bunch of them were coming to pile up on people in Vegas first and get all messed up. The Secret Societies. This is the one, Bad just was all excited about, and I thought this was pretty cool. If you're really a member of the global elite, now, if you guys have been watching the History Channel much, there was a story that was put together about it's called the curse of the, what do you call it? The Confederacy Gold. And it's actually taking place here in Michigan. It's over near Muskegon, in Frankfort, Michigan, actually, along the west coast of the state near Lake Michigan. And they're out looking for this barge of sunken gold bars that supposedly were pushed off in a trolley train car into the depths of Lake Michigan. But it was hauled up from when, what was his name? President, I can't remember the guy's name now. The one who was running the Confederacy when we were a divided nation during the Civil War. And he was their elected president. What's his name? Richard something. I can't remember his name. And supposedly when he was captured, in drag, by the way, he was all dressed up as a woman when they caught him. And they had 6-7 wagonfuls of gold and silver and jewelry and all this other stuff. So the conspiracy holds that there's this idea that these bandwagons were diverged in different locations, off to different places. One of them being Michigan. And they followed the tracks through the bigwigs who were actually in Muskegon at the time and in the Frankfort area, guys running the lumber mills and guys running the big, when oil wasn't even, heard, they weren't really thinking of oil yet, but it was coal. So there were these coal industries and fur industries. Everybody was big on that and they had money. But when this money was distributed, they started to build entities within the city, like hospitals and parks and all this other stuff to kind of launder that money through and get what they wanted out of the deal. It's said to have even taken on a life into what was the mess that was Abraham Lincoln's assassination. And if you got to check out the show, it's a really cool show. So head out there to History Channel and check out The Curse of the Civil War Gold. And if you haven't seen Curse of Oak Island yet, that's a really cool show too. That's almost into its final series, I believe, coming in. John, take it easy, man. We'll be seeing you later for sure. Can't wait to see what happens with Nerd World TV this afternoon. Again, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you check that out at Nerd World TV. And we got Don in the house. Thanks for coming, Don, and Joseph Burke as well. So we're at the Secret Societies. But in that whole process, the idea of having the Freemasonry was part of that as well. So that's another one of those shows that I really get a kick out of. I'm into that type of broadcast. It's just really cool and interesting to find out what's going on there. Again, a week ago, we had the lunar landing anniversary 50 year. And this was written during the 40 year. So were they faked? I see so many different things, and I had to get into a thread with Brad Slows actually on this, who's also from Vegas, was because he was posting stuff contrary or trying to uphold the conspiracy theory. And I was like, well, whatever. Okay, if you say so, what have you got? I want to see what you got. And it was based on photographs and imagery and the boots that Neil was wearing when he stepped off of the LEM and the LEM, the Lunar Emergence Entry Module, whatever you want to call it. He steps down off the ladder and they show this ridged boot, and it's the ridged boot print that they show. And then they're showing this picture of his suit that's at the Smithsonian, and it doesn't have anything like that on the bottom of the shoe. Well, all these conspiracy theorists think they know what they're talking about, but if they would just look at the rest of the picture doesn't show the other pair of overboots that every astronaut wears when they come out of the LEM, because they don't wear those extra fitted boots on, while they're floating around inside a unit or out in space or anything like that. These are used strictly for moonwalking. So, hey, that's probably where they got the term moon boots, right? Anyway, so I went back and forth with these guys, and there are literally some really kooky people out there when it comes to this lunar landing theory. NVIDIA, go to YouTube and check out an NVIDIA debunk of the photographs that were taken on the moon and the way the videos were taken on the moon, because they have done the most intensive and elaborate 3D rendering and rendition of the lunar landing to a T. They've literally specced out every possible event that was taking place at that time, every possible material, every possible reflection, every possible location based on exact coordinates of where the sun, the moon, the LEM, and everything were located at the time of the landing. So you can't really miss it. That it's pretty obvious that, yeah, we made it to the moon. Now, a lot of people say, well, we had to get through this radiation barrier. And if you follow the track of the radiation barrier, you can see where we had a small window where we could get through. I can't remember the name of it. They're the bands that come around the planet. And I should have known. I didn't have that link ready today, but that's okay. It's not that important. It's the radiation that's radiating on either side of our planet that protects us outside of the ozone layer, that protects us from all that radiation coming at us from the sun. But it's the fact that people want to think that we would fry if we went through it. And yet, if you look at the materials that were used, both on the units that left Earth and that came back to Earth, the suits they were wearing and all the lined materials that were on those, they were intended to keep them in a safe level of radioactive exposure. And they had badges on that they wore, and they proved with those badges that the exposure limits that they had were well under the number of rads that they thought they were ever going to experience. They were expecting up to 400 rads, I think it was. And there's a really cool archive over at, I believe it's apolloarchives.org. Let's see if that's the right one. The Apollo Archives or apolloarchives.org. This has got some of the really cool, let's see, Project Apollo Archive. So it's apolloarchive.com. Go check this site out if you want to see some of the rarest footage that, there's video follow-ups, there's books, obviously, but there's so much stuff here that you can find out about what was going on. Like if you want to go to the image gallery, you can come over here and check out all the photos that were taken out in space. You can check out any of the photos from Apollo 11, 12, 13, all the way back to, the early Apollo missions, which a lot of people say, well, they did those Apollo missions. They never left Earth's orbit. And then they say they made it to the moon, and then they never went back. Why did they ever go back? Well, then they even said, well, Russia never made it either. They couldn't figure it out. Well, no, I think Russia was a little crimped in the goody, whatever you want to call it. I don't know where that word came from. Just to be able to say, well, they made it first. Why should we be second? So what is it to be second? Yeah, it would have been cool if they would have went anyway. Supposedly Israel's on their way up here pretty soon, or India. Even one of them. So maybe someone else will land on the moon and prove everybody that thinks it's a conspiracy wrong and say, look, we can do it. We can actually land on the moon. SpaceX, I think, is going to be one of the flat Earth folks. I love it, Don. I love it, Don. That's another one. And I saw this really cool post the other day. And we've got like 3 more before I wrap up the actual 10. And then I'm going to open up the seats. But I love that you brought up the flat Earth one, because I've got a meme that was really cool. Well, actually, I posted it. Let's go over to my page. I'm going to see what I got going on my page over here, because it was on my profile. Look at that. Bill Gates sorry about the GetVokl peeps. Bill Gates standing in a hot dog stand, waiting for a hot dog. A billionaire. Dude, that's leadership right there, man. All right. Oh, by the way, Don, if you forgot, it's opening day of zucchini season out here in the States. You better get that. I thought that was you. No, I'm sorry. Keep going. There's one up here somewhere. First year anniversary of Raven and I putting together, well, not just Raven and I, but we managed to get our #1 Amazon bestseller last week, a year ago, with Conversations Behind the Mic. That was so much fun working with her on that. Here we go. We're pretty close. Oh, there it is. There's the Nerd World broadcast coming up really soon in a few hours here, 6 p.m. Me and the missus. I didn't even bring this up. I'm getting to it. Hey, there's one. That's a really cool photo. The ISS flying across the sun. But there was one up here that was about, it's right here. Hold on. I got to get to it. And I post a lot of crap. What can you expect? I'm going to probably take a minute to find something. If you guys aren't going to watch that, please don't. Why did I say that? There's something here I wanted you guys to see, and I'm not going to. I guess I post way too much more. Oh, there it is. There it is. Okay. So this is for the flat earthers out there, Don. I was hoping you'd see this. Take it easy, Joe. We'll see you around. Multiple missions to the moon. Yes, obviously. Ever heard of the moon trees of NASA? They took seeds up to space, left them in the Apollo 14. Yeah. And there were seeds, they brought them back to Earth and planted through the U.S. government and educational institutions. We have a moon tree in those seeds here in the University of Florida campus. That's so cool, dude. I love that. So this was the post. This is for the flat earthers out there, okay? It starts off, and, this came from my friend Elizabeth on her wall. I just shared it over. So do flat earthers think the Earth still moves in space like some sort of planet-sized Frisbee? Like spinning across the universe. This is my new religion. God made the Frisbee Earth and then just tossed it out into the abyss. I was laughing after the first sentence. The world ends when his dog catches it. As cosmogonies go. How do you say it? Cosmogonies go. I've seen worse. But two great but opposed celestial forces, God and dog. God who created the world and dog who will end. I just thought that was so funny. Maybe I got a really whack sense of humor, but when I saw that, it was so deep. It was just deep. That's all I can say. Okay, how many more we got? Jesus and Mary Magdalene. Oh, this was like what? They were boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, right? There's so much to be said about religion and whether or not some of it's allegory, metaphor, truth, history. I mean, it's a matter of whether or not you're willing to open your eyes and look at it all and, look at the context, the history, the language barriers, the idioms that are used in those languages, the translation issues that can happen when you go from one language to another. And the fact that the superstitious aspect of a lot of religions tend to coincide with other religions, where most of, like, the flood theory goes through several different religions. There are all kinds of other things that go through, like a man god or anything that is risen and resurrected. So you have to kind of look at everything with a grain of salt as you move into the religious realm. So I simply implore everyone, take a good look, know what you believe what you know. All right, Holocaust revisionism. This one I take personally. You've probably seen me post that way as well, because there have been cases and times where I go out and I look at YouTube and I go, there are really Holocaust deniers to the hilt. I mean, the people believe 6 million Jews did not die in the 40s and 30s and 40s over time. It was a period of time, obviously. And it wasn't just Jews, for God's sake. And, I've got a book here, and that's why it hits me at home. Maybe I can do it this way. You'll be able to see for a second. All right, this is some of my family tree. See, my grandfather, when he came over, this was the form he had to fill, my great-grandfather, I should say, to denounce his alliance with any other country. Okay? And he came here, and he was an immigrant. This is the tree, and here's one picture of her. This is my great-great-grandmother, Magdalena. Right here, and this is my grandmother. Okay, and that's Veronica. But I got to get to the tree, and here's my beautiful aunt. A beautiful aunt. Well, we'll get to that. That's not for today's show. I wanted to get to the tree that I was looking for. For some reason, it's not. There it is. Okay. So this was Magdalena, the one I showed you just a bit ago. And if you probably can't read underneath her name there. Okay. But it says she was born in Buchan, Hungary in 1863. And she died in 1944 and 1945 in exterminito, which is to say she was exterminated in a death camp known as the Jarek death camp. So when I go back and I look at my own history, I have to see it for what it is, the truth that it is, that there was a Holocaust. There was people dying. There were people and she starved to death. So it wasn't as though she went through some of the horrendous stuff that took place in Poland and Germany, where people were literally gassed or hung or what have you. So, when you see the graphic imagery of that time period, how can you possibly think it was faked? I look at the imagery and I go back to these people who want to say it never happened. And I'm like, you guys are nuts. And I'm just going to leave it. That's the best I can go. CIA and AIDS. I'm not sure about this one. I've never heard of it. Now, if you've ever watched the movie Matthew McConaughey, and the band played on. Okay, great movie. I wanted to go look for it for a second, but I totally forgot the name. And the band played on. It's a great movie about the origins of the AIDS virus and how it came to be, and those critical 48 to 72 hours, let's say, that were going on, and even weeks. Actually, it took days before they were under total control of what was happening or understood at all what was going on. Follows the guy on the plane, the concept of monkeys, all that other stuff. There's so much to be said about it, but that movie is very powerful. It's very moving, and it lets you get a really good idea on how the government didn't want to do anything at first. There were things they didn't want to do, but maybe this theory, this concept is like, did they plan this? Were they trying to exterminate the gays? Were they trying to kill all homosexuals? What was the concept there? I mean, it's been done in the past. What do you think happened with heroin and marijuana back in the 30s? They were literally going to black communities, underprivileged black communities, and making sure in one way or another that they kept the drug rings going, that the people were kept on their little pacifiers of marijuana and drugs. And then they made that whole concept like, oh, look, see, it's depravity. It's the idea that we can't have this in our society, or it's going to bring us all down to this level of stupidity and be unable to, it's so deep, guys. It's so deep. So I don't know about this one. I'd never seen this one before, but I do know there was a lot more to it than what a lot of people want to admit. So, and the band played on. Go check that out. Great movie on the origin of AIDS, and make a decision for yourself. And of course, we always have to look at the facts. You know, we have to go back and look at the facts. The reptilian elite. Really? Okay. I guess if there's some aliens out there or something submerged or came up from under the water like Godzilla and said, I'm going to mate with a human, you got me there. I'm not sure what to say on this one. Blood drinking, flesh eating, shape shifting, extraterrestrial, reptilian humanoids. Can I get a something?
Get away from her, you bitch!
Ooh, that's probably what that would say. I mean, what would you do if something like that came after you? All right, and our last one. That was it. That's it. Reptilians. I can't say much more than that. So I'm going to unlock the seats. If y'all want to come in and have a seat with me, I'm going to switch back over to my other camera because I thought that was kind of fun. I'm going to fade out that other little box that I put up there for me. And if you guys want to join in and hang out with me, feel free to do so. Don, I think it's going to be nice to have you aboard. I'm seeing you a while, buddy. What's up? Oh, hold on. Because turn off my speakers. Okay, there we go. Sorry.
Your mustache was a bit darker than the rest, so I was thinking Zorro as soon as I flipped on the screen. It looked like it was like trimmed like that.
And it goes down through here too sometimes. It just turns into this dark streak center of my chin. Yeah.
You're not a smoker, right?
I used to be. I actually quit in 2015.
Yeah.
I was a big smoker. I smoked 40 years. Marlboro Reds, man. I was a heavy smoker.
Yeah, I quit about 8 years ago. But I knew this one guy that I used to work with. His mustache was all black, but there was 2 gray streaks right where his mouth was.
Oh, really? Yeah,
he exhaled through his nose. So I was like,
that's what I think my hair is going to look like soon. I'm going to have those like skunk bands going across over my ears. I'd rather look like you and be all white. I'm waiting for that white mode that I get.
Yeah, but that reminds me of the report. Or what's the guy's name? The guy who was the Superman's chief.
Clark Kent. Oh, yeah, the guy above him. Yeah, I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
that's the lady in the chat. She should know what's going on with that one. What's her name?
She knows all that trivia.
Okay, the American soldiers in the concentration death camps. I gotta find that. Where's that? What was that?
There was one documentary about the war that I watched that was really overwhelming. When they get to that point where the soldiers are basically walking into some of these concentration camps, and so many unburied bodies, and so many people are still, either dying or on their way to die because of starvation issues. That the documentary was very graphic. Let's put it that way.
They have to be.
And I don't think that information was ever supposed to be seen by the public until many years after, because it was
yeah.
pretty graphic. Yeah, you couldn't just show that to any audience, especially
No,
in the
not
United
then.
States. I noticed that really quickly when I came over to Europe, because what you see on the news in the United States is much different than what you see on the news in Europe,
Oh, I can imagine.
as far as graphic.
Yeah. They let you get away with it over there, because I was watching stuff that's been covered on Facebook recently, because they've gotten real edgy over the last couple of years, where they started putting that filter over top of, really concerning videos, like not for work type stuff. And I watched a lady cut a dog's foot off with a freaking cleaver in a video from Asia. It was like telling the dog you did something wrong. She cut its foot off. And they showed the whole video was the dog walking around. And I'm like, what the frick? Why'd they even leave this on? And that's why I really contest, and I mentioned this last time, why 13-year-olds shouldn't be on Facebook. Because of that. They're leaving this stuff on Facebook, and it's all adult conversation. And, you get into these conspiracy theory conversations, it gets heated. It gets pretty crazy out there on Facebook. So have you been in any of those conversations before?
No, because I don't think that it's not productive, because there's just too much. There's a lot of ignorance going back and forth, so that's where some of it is derived from, just total ignorance of the facts. So if it's like slapping somebody in the face and then them slapping you back, and then have you ever seen that? That's bizarre.
There's a lot funner though, isn't it?
Have you ever seen a Russian slapping contest?
Yeah, I have. You pretty much try to knock each other out. Yeah. It's one slap, but it's as hard as they can possibly deliver it, and it's like, oh my god, guys!
Guys go down and they're just like stiff on the ground. So I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff on the internet, and I don't go down too many of those rabbit holes.
Well, I'll ask you about them, and I like to at least talk about some things when there's factual evidence, when there's stuff that says, look, you're wrong. And I'm not trying to get in that, but if they're out there saying there's no way this could have happened, I like to drop those little bombs in there and say, okay, then try to prove this wrong. And, give them the opportunity to see the truth and decide for themselves, okay, is that really what I should be thinking? Or am I just going to willfully ignore it anyway and let it go? And that's how I am with the whole 9/11 thing. There's still a ton of unanswered questions there, whether you want to look at it as a terrorist event or not. Yes, it was a terrorist event, but there was a lot more to it, and it's a lot more in depth than a lot of people want to admit. So I just like to throw that out there every now and then.
I always like look back at those kind of issues, and I always think of it as there's always some kind of CIA kind of like high level government interventions in these things that they find out later, 10, 15 years later, they go, oh, by the way, we were doing this behind the scenes. And sometimes I know it's absolutely for the purposes of creating conflict and wars.
Most of it, yeah. And the others, they think we can't. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to start that. That we can't handle it. That like the American public can't handle the truth, or the world as a whole couldn't handle the truth. Like we're just too stupid to know better or something. And it's just that is an elitist attitude, but it does exist. There are groups of people out there who think they can run the world. Let's just admit it. There are secret societies. There are people who have been doing this for centuries, and the process just keeps moving along. But I saw one in particular, like something about the president's descendants, right? There was something about all the presidents in their bloodline are of a certain royalty bloodline. No matter where you go, every president of the United States has this bloodline. And if you look at it, so do you and I, Don. It's basically the same thing. If we took all the presidents through history, we can connect them all to one King John of England, or, whatever. That's going to happen because of the cross. You had so many people.
But that bizarre stuff with DNA. Go back and say, and like some people have said, oh yeah, I was descendant of this person, and you go, well, how do you know? And they go, well, it's a DNA similarity. So you could be 5 or 6 steps away from that person and still share some of the same DNA as that person.
Exactly.
So they not. It's pretty good, but I don't know how good it is to this day. I mean, but back to the conspiracies and stuff that goes on. My gut feeling is that because the military, industry machine of the military machine that is war, and the idea that is a big industry, because the more wars we have, the more bombs we can use, and the more bombs that need to be sold and everything else.
Absolutely.
Like there was an over exaggeration. Somebody said that a drone was shot down just recently, that last drone that was shot down recently. And they said it was $100 million drone, which when I went and looked it up, the most expensive drone that the military actually has flying, United States military has flying out, is around $4 million. $4 million for a drone. So this is a fully equipped drone too, right? So when these guys blow up these big numbers, they're doing it just for the media. They're just saying, oh, well, they shot down one of our drones that was $400 million or $100 million. They're just doing that for.
And you know what else that contributes to, though? That also helps them to skim money off the top. And it's been proven before that these numbers are exaggerated to a point that they cause a write-off of a drone that cost them whatever millions of dollars, and yet that money didn't actually cost them that much to make it. So where did that other $100 million just go? That was taken off the books to say it was a loss. And that happens, man. It's been proven time and time again that this stuff takes place all the time in government accounting. So there are even conspiracy theories along those lines that we have to watch for. Is our government even out?
Government waste is huge. I just went in online and I was they're doing a renovation of a school here in this city right here where I live. They're doing a renovation on the school that was built the same year that I was born, 1963, 62, 63. So they're doing this renovation so they can basically reuse the school for some other purpose. They're repurposing it for handicapped children and people and kids with learning disabilities for one reason or another, or physically handicapped children. So they put 7 million crowns into a playground or multiple playgrounds, and it's pretty amazing. It's a really nice playgrounds. But the thing is, like, they have these big dumpsters outside of the building, and all of the material that was in the buildings before they started this renovation is just being pulled out and thrown into the dumpsters. You've got school desks, architectural drafting desks. You've got welding equipment. You've got all this different type of equipment that's been literally thrown into dumpsters.
And Ship me a welder, man. I could use a welder. I'll pay for the shipping, dude.
This is something I went so. This was in one of the dumpsters. This is an L bracket. There's 6 of them.
Oh,
this is a heavy duty L bracket.
Oh yeah, those are huge.
And it's powder painted. It's a really good quality powder painting.
Cool.
And so I was able to scan the
found where you could get them.
And I found them online from one of the most. These are manufactured and sold by one of the most expensive outlets here in Denmark.
Wow.
There's 2,000 crowns worth of these L brackets were in the dumpster, and I pulled them out. 2,000 Danish crowns. So when I think about waste, I think that, there's so much of it that's going on. Yeah. And it's really rampant in all of these different building projects. And it's really embarrassing.
I actually did a video, one of the first video broadcasts I did, and it was recorded on tape, on beta tape. When I was out of high school, I was working for the public broadcasting division. That's the license behind me on the wall there. It was actually, at the time, this cable company doesn't exist anymore. It's United Cable Television. And I took a camera unit out behind the high school that I graduated from because there were piles of stuff that had been, ripped out lockers, kids' desks, like you said, hardware from the auto shop, from the mechanical shop, from the woodworking shop, all this stuff that had just been tossed over into a big heap pile behind the school because it was along a bunch of state property. So nobody saw the pile. It was just back there growing and growing and growing. And I went back there one day and filmed it all. and called them out on public television. And it was close to the last of my career at the cable company, because I came up with stuff they didn't want to see.
But don't you think that it would have been smart on the board and everybody's involved? It would have been smarter to just take that material and said, hey, listen, you know what? We're going to have a lot of stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to have kind of like an open house and just let people come in and take whatever they want. And it's doing two things. It's really reducing the amount of labor, because you have to hire physical guys to come in and take all this kind of stuff and chuck it into a dumpster and all the other desks and everything else. Or they have to, some of it was getting put into a container and taken directly to what's called the Genbrug's boutique, which is kind of like Salvation Army. You know, they have the boutiques where they can resell stuff. Yeah.
Yep. We got 3 of those.
But what would have been better is if they would have just had some kind of a walkthrough and said, hey, if you can use this stuff, take it, you're welcome to it. Then that would have reduced a huge amount of physical labor. I mean, it took weeks for them to empty out these buildings. They were huge buildings. Just imagine a school building of multiple modules. I've taken a video of it before.
Yeah, I hate to see that. And it's funny how we got directed into that, because I was glad you came on. I wasn't sure where I was going to go after that first half hour anyway. And I'm probably going to wrap it up as a 45-minute show today, Don. So I got things I got to grab outside of this. But I like the fact that we took it from one extreme, which is the people who are onto these conspiracy theory concepts. And obviously that became a huge thing just last week with the lunar landing. And we've talked about 9/11. We've talked about some of the other 10 that were on the Times bestseller list, you might say. And I find it interesting that some of these things are still rampant. And we've got others that we didn't even talk about. You mentioned the whole flat earth theory. What are your favorites about that? Because I actually started to watch a lot of their stuff, and there was one that really piqued my interest. As a surveyor type, as an engineer, let me explain why. Because there's the curvature of the earth, and when surveyors go out and survey, they have to adjust their readings on their glass instruments when they focus in on entities that are long distances away from their instrument. Because of the curvature of the earth, the distance is actually longer than the shot that's being taken. So they have to adjust those coordinates to accommodate the elevation change and the distance change. And when you hear some of the flat earthers' theories of the fact that they've been able to scope what they shouldn't see, they shouldn't be able to see, but it's a refraction thing in the atmosphere. That's the reason we see these things, that they think that it can't possibly be picking up a curve. It's like, okay, wait a minute. But we had guys out on a spaceship that went around the earth like this, and we could see it go around and around. Whoops, sorry. Like round and around and around. So how can they be that willfully ignorant? How can people in this mindset get out? Have you ever been like trapped in a mindset that you thought something was true and it wasn't? And found out later it wasn't?
I don't believe in much. I mean, I don't believe in much, because I think that there's a lot of reasons, like you were talking about religion before. I think that there's a lot of reasons why people feel like they want to believe in certain things. Yes. And there's certain stories that have been told through millennia that just resonate with certain people, and they will always resonate with those people, because that's like a comfort. It's like a comfort blanket. It's something that they can hold close to them and feel good about their future and their afterlife and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But nobody knows what happens when we die. We just don't know. We don't.
Yeah. When it comes to flat Earth, though, I think that if you were to follow Newton's law or something and just go out and drop an apple and it drops, then you would be understanding that it doesn't matter what part of the globe you're on. When you drop an apple, that gravity is going to work in any, So if you were at the edge of the earth, if you could actually find the edge of the earth, just a big disc, and you dropped an apple and it didn't go this way, it kind of like went out to and dropped over the edge, then I could say, But this thing I think was started by Fortran for a lot of just shits and giggles,
I think
because
you're right.
yeah, I don't think anybody else could have ever come up with anything so ludicrous.
Well, there was another aspect to it that I found interesting. That was the plane routes that are taken by large aircraft, the professional aircraft that are commuter planes, and that there are certain areas of the globe. It's like, well, they're saying, well, you don't see any planes flying over those areas over there, do you? Because that place doesn't exist. They're like flying over this way instead, and they're going up over the poles. And I'm like, yeah, but that's just because that's the long way. Why would you want to take the long way if you can find a shorter way to get there? You can obviously go over the poles and make that trip that much faster. Go across the Bering Straits, obviously, from Asia to America much faster than if you were to fly from China down around this way and that way to get to us. So some people just don't get common logistics, I think, also. And it comes down to education, though, right, Don? I keep pressing this all the time with people to self-educate or to learn from someone better, a mentor or whatever that knows more than you do. Because the less we know, the less we're privy to believing things we don't know enough about. And I think that's what's really important, is to try and find that middle ground and understand that there's truth behind everything, but sometimes it's hidden.
And not grab onto something that just is kind of like some kind of popular trend. Because that's where you can get into trouble. I mean, you can really go down these rabbit holes and find all kinds of trends like that are just crazy. To this day, I hear these people talk about Bigfoot and stuff, and I just think, yeah, well, you know what? If there was ever any Bigfoot, the thing couldn't live forever, and you'd have to find some real bones.
Yeah, I would think at some point. I mean, could it be a smart enough beast, some humanoid beast that feels it has enough intelligence to avoid us at all costs, to live this, animalistic lifestyle? I think at some point I've seen some pretty incredible stuff there too, but it's just so blown out of proportion now. You can't believe much of anything that comes to the table on that. That kind of goes along the lines of the Loch Ness Monster. That one is faded. No one believes in the Loch Ness Monster anymore. When I was a kid, that was like, oh my God, did you see that Loch Ness Monster in the lake? It's freaking huge, man. Everybody believed it. Everybody thought it was real. And it finally came down to, no, somebody faked this footage and somebody faked that footage. But even though Bigfoot footage has been proven false, and the footprints are obviously a lot of times faked, people are still gung-ho on finding that dude one way or the other, him or Yeti, whichever one they want to look for. So
Chupacabra too. What I was going to ask you though is, I didn't know if you were talking about the different types of movies that have been released by Netflix lately. I just watched the documentary Lincoln. Did you see Lincoln?
I have not seen that one yet, but that's probably closely tied to what was discovered in some of that Curse of the Civil War Gold series that I'm watching on history.
Pretty
what
good.
do you have to say?
It's basically what they were talking about is they were getting really into the nitty-gritty of not just his lifestyle, but the whole fact that the Civil War was because he was trying to write this, abolition of slavery into, national law. And it's like, if you think about it in those terms, that's really the reason behind all of this. And they really talked to some people that had these ideas that they were superior than black men. For example, that was their mindset back in those days, and it was something that was really strongly held for such a long time that they figured, oh, we're entitled to do this because these are inferior animals. They weren't thinking them as people; they were thinking them as something less than people. And it's just an eye opener to see this documentary, and then also to hear some of the references back to like Tammany Hall.
Oh yeah. I've heard that. I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but I kicked from like high school and reading. That was it.
Yeah. Well, when you go watch a film like Gangs of New York, they're talking about Tammany Hall because they connected.
Yep.
Yeah. So then those guys are also talking about it because there's some hucksters and some people that are working within Tammany Hall that are just doing all of this nefarious stuff just to disrupt the function of government. And it's a really it's pretty cool and pretty interesting story. But it's really well done by Daniel Day-Lewis. He's a great actor. So
yeah, I'd love to see that.
Good job.
And I think a lot of the times when we dig into some of these like true conspiracy theories, I mean, don't get me wrong. What I was pointing out today were simply, and I'm not talking to you specifically, Don, but the fact that I listed 10 of those conspiracy theories that have drug on for so many years, decades, fortnights, whatever you want to call them. It just comes down to the fact that most of this stuff's already been debunked in one way or another, and been shown to be just either a collaboration of a bunch of stuff people have created in their minds or put down as pseudoscience or partial evidence and made assumptions to. But there are some actual conspiracy theories that exist, like even the spraying of the atmosphere with the jet planes. That was a conspiracy theorist issue for years, that the government denied that they were doing anything with these jettisons of ionized materials like aluminum and other stuff into the atmosphere, when in reality they were actually doing it, and they had to admit it in the end. So
cloud seeding and stuff like that, and then all the different trails that they were trying to figure out why. That's one of the friends, even a friend of mine who was online. We were on, I believe we were on Blab at the time. And we were sitting there talking. And he goes, "You don't believe me. You think I'm full of shit." And he took his camera over to the window, and he lives in Las Vegas. He shined pointed his camera up at the window, out the window. And the weird thing was, it wasn't just like stripes going one direction. It was a crisscross pattern. Yeah. And it was like so clear. I'm like going, whoa, that's pretty bizarre. And so, he said, there's no doubt about it that they're doing something, and there's no reason why these patterns should exist on a day like
knowledge. Not if you're just going to spray it over my head. I best know what's going on. That's just like even if you get anywhere near a pig farm, these huge, enormous pig farms that are spraying and they have to put all their waste into a huge reservoir. All right. And not only that, but they take that waste and they put them into huge water guns and they shoot the crap all over their property to mitigate. I mean, they have to get this stuff, and it goes into the soil, obviously. It leaches into the soil. So any antibiotics they fed the bovine, or the pigs and bovine both. But pigs are the worst, and they're the worst smelling. And there are people who live next to these things who are finding this stuff is vaporizing and landing on their house. It's like, my God, who's getting away with this stuff? So
they do it here in Denver too, where there's certain times a year when they call it gul, and it's these big vats of fermented pig waste, and they go with these big tanker trucks, suck it up into the truck, and then they take it out onto the farm fields and they dump it. And the thing is it's called goodening, which is basically what do they call it? Fertilizer.
Yeah, that's all we're doing. We do it here too.
But it's just so strong. The ammonia coming off of it is so strong at certain times of the year. And that's why I always like the idea. I had seen one design of a chicken farmer that lived, I don't know which city or state he was in, but he built these cages that were really cool. And I always thought about it doing the same thing for pigs. You have these modular units that basically roll so many feet every single day. So the earth is fresh and the grass is fresh underneath the pigs or the chickens. Oh, cool. So that never becomes an issue. The ammonia levels never get too high. The soil's being fertilized, and it's being done incrementally every single day. So you don't have those big buildups of ammonia.
Gotcha. That makes sense. When I was working at the fire department back in, this would have been early 2000s, because I actually became a fireman right before 9/11. I was signing up in August, and it was a month later that the towers came down. And for those few years after that, I was working closely at the not Frankenmuth, but it's actually Kochville Fire Department is one township over from Frankenmuth Township. And
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You might ever hear the Little Bavarian, located here in Michigan, is known as Frankenmuth, Michigan. It's the Little Bavaria of Michigan. And it's like the coolest place you can go just to hang out and check out all the shops. And I did some design work out there as well. But the fact of the matter is, is that now I was going somewhere with that. I hate it when I go blank. Where was I going with that, Don? I was going to say something.
Oh, methane.
Yes.
You're
All right.
talking
So a guy hit. Oh, Cortana showed up and wanted to talk to me. I don't want to talk to you, Cortana. What it was is a gentleman had developed a viscous liquid, and it's what you would call a surfactant, and it was meant to be used as a fire extinguishing component so that it would literally smother any carbon-based fires with enzymes that would help eradicate the fire faster and keep it from ever spreading and rekindling. Well, what they discovered in the process of generating this stuff is that it would remove the smell from the pigs, literally take all smell. I mean, they could spray the pigs with this and you couldn't smell the pig anymore. It was that cool. And I don't know whether they're actually using this in any way yet or not, or if it's just been deemed, well, it's a lot of money to not make our pigs stink or something. But hey, what's up, buddy? What's his name again?
Trey,
that's right. We had a rooster named Trey. I remember there was a commonality between names there. All right, Don, we've made it to 55 minutes into this, normally an hour broadcast, but I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make an hour out of that. I'm glad to have you. I appreciate you coming in and being a guest today on Wake Up West Coast, because sometimes I need somebody to sit in and help things move along.
I haven't been around here for a while because I check in every once in a while to GetVokl, and it just has been kind of quiet, and so I was glad to see somebody is actually putting in some effort.
I think a lot of what we used to see is later. Like, I can't catch half the shows out here. They're on a different time frame than I'm used to. And I've been doing Wake Up West Coast now. This is my third season, episode 4 of Wake Up West Coast at noon Eastern. So if you guys want to check out all the replays, they're on my channel here at GetVokl. And if you are expecting some more, we might be bringing some more stuff out here as well. I'm thinking about doing a personal podcast similar to this, but on a different note. And then my wife and I are doing Me and the Missus, which is At the Best Live on Facebook. But we might find to bring it over here as a means to build community and take it up a notch, because it's tough to just do Facebook Lives.
Have you got a YouTube channel as well?
Not for Me and the Missus, but yeah, for me, it's just Leland Best. If you search me anywhere as Leland Best, Michigan, you can probably find me, or just go to BCB Live, and all my stuff is over there at bcblive.com. So I think we're going to wrap it up, Don. That kind of covers it for me. But again, thanks for coming in from Denmark, and I hope you guys have great weather out there. How's it looking over there lately? You're like,
it's hot and humid.
That's what I heard. We're pretty hot and muggy over here too, so I feel your pain. All right, we'll see you next time, Don. Take it easy. I'm just going to boot you to give my final wrap up here, and we'll call it a night. So thanks for coming.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to switch back to the big screen here for just a minute while I wrap this up over at Wake Up West Coast. It's lunchtime. I gave all my spiels. Oops, I don't have my green screen on today, so I'll just go this route and we'll bring it in the hard way. I like to come out here, like I said, every Monday at noon Eastern out at GetVokl.com. If you're watching out on Facebook, we didn't see any comments come in, so it was probably because I didn't share it from my page out to my profile or out to any of the BCB Live connections that I have out on Facebook. So just look me up, bcblive.com, where we're going to be broadcasting using a new product and service that we've come across. I'm actually excited, let's say, to be a part of this. Look for Livebox, and that's going to be coming out really soon under BCB. We're going to be showing people how this stuff can really get streamed out to many locations. We're going to show you how to syndicate to your website, to a lot of other places out on the web at one time without a watermark and without limitations. So can't wait to bring that to the table and let you guys see what we have to offer. But we'll be out here again next Monday at 12 noon Eastern at GetVokl on Wake Up West Coast. It's lunchtime, and we'll see you in the next broadcast. Take care, everyone. Have a great week.